Order.
Excuse me, we're starting the meeting, please. Thank you. Commissioner Schneider.
Present.
Commissioner Warren.
Present.
Commissioner Jarvis.
Present.
Commissioner Henry.
Here. Okay, we have quorum. We have an opening for ask Commissioner Schneider and Commissioner Jarvis to say the pledge after that.
Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us together this morning as a free people to discuss the business of Lapeer County. And as we do, we're mindful, Lord, of this great blessing and also this great responsibility and all that have come before us to give us this opportunity. Help us to use it wisely, Lord. Please give us wisdom in our decisions today. Please bless all of those in Lapeer County, especially those that are in great need emotionally, financially, physically. There are so many challenges in our community, Lord. We ask for your hand of blessing upon those within our community in any way that we can help our neighbors. Please, Lord, help us be able to do so. We ask for our blessing for all of our public safety personnel and our medical personnel and all of those in the first line that put themselves before us and put themselves in jeopardy for us. And as well as our troops, Lord, especially those away from their families in foreign lands, please bring them home safely soon to us. Lord, we thank you for the youth among us. We ask you to please help us be a little bit better examples to them. And we ask all this, Lord, in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda. We've got, I think the basic agenda, I'm not aware of any new topics. I would like to order the agenda slightly, reorder it slightly to have the use of advisory committee report right after we approve the minutes, so they can move on. I think another presentation also gets
I'll make that motion to move with the changes.
motion, support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And minutes, then?
Make motion to move.
All right. Motion is second. Any corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay, so we'll move on to Sheriff McKenna, who's going to introduce the topic.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Henning. So first of all, thank you everybody for coming. A couple notes before. One, I want to say thank you for allowing the kids to be able to do this. We obviously have multiple from all districts that are here. We got about half, Jen, right? So I think we have 32 and actually in our program, which is the biggest number we've had or that they've had in some time. A couple things of note, as long as you're okay with it. Where's Nancy at? Nancy Boxey, a lot of you know, I am on the Community Foundation. Nancy is the head of the Community Foundation, does a fantastic job with it. Nancy, if it's okay with you, is going to kind of move around and take pictures of the kids that are doing it. And then obviously Deputy Davis will be here also for the filming side of it. We are going to be leaving here and going to the courthouse. So Commissioner Henning, thank you for moving that. Because we have veterans coming in at noon, so we want to be in and out of there quickly for them. Our plan then is going to be with the help of Crystal Morley. She is going to be, we're going to be talking to the kids about what they see in school, the things that bother them, things that they saw through the survey that scared them. I think everybody knows that we live in a time right now that is not only tough for adults, but even tougher for kids. And I think I'm so proud to be a part of this program and to see these young men and young women. I'm going to be straight with you and very open from the beginning. We're not going to twist this in any way, shape, or form political. There's going to be things that we see the result of some of the decisions that were made. I speak very open. All of you know I'm very blunt. Obviously, coming through COVID, this is not for me to stand on my high horse and talk about it, but you're going to see the answers from these kids and the lives they went or the lives that they're living of what some of the effects of what we've done to them and the decisions that have been made that has drastically affected these kids. And we have to open our eyes to that, and we have to talk about that. I understand there's many different areas, but when you see the results and see how this went through, it's going to break your heart in some ways, which is sad. But I think that we'll go through it. This program you're going to see today, or this PowerPoint that the kids will be introducing slides, is a very abbreviated version. And the reason being is because we will go from here to start doing these at every school district in parent forums. We will present those and we'll adapt them to them. But today's very generic because we obviously have 5 school districts in there. Obviously, the commissioners represent different areas within different school districts. So we're pretty vague in how we did it, with kind of a shortened version of what our programs will be when we do each community and obviously each school. So we're very excited about that. What I would like to do, how we'll run it today is Miss Phillips. I'm going to introduce her. Miss Phillips does a phenomenal job with this and with the kids and everything that the program stands for. She's going to kind of explain to you a little bit about YAC, how it works, and then we're going to individually have each kid stand up, introduce themselves with their name, their grade, and what school district they attend. Once the introductions are done there, then we're going to go into the slides where we'll have each kid, and kids, when you come up, and when we get to that, I can show you. At that point, whatever your slide is, you're going to come up kind of up front here, just somewhere in this area here. Commissioners, you might have, I don't know if you need to slide over to be able to see. I apologize for the size of the room. And then each kid will present that slide. I might have a couple notes at the end of that slide. Once your slide is done, you'll sit down, and whoever's presenting the next slide will step up. Ms. Phillips has assigned slides to each of the kids. But to one on my personal side, I say thank you, Debbie, is that for everything you do, and obviously with Ms. Boxey, this program is phenomenal. It was something I found out a couple years ago, and I fell in love with it. I know, where's Mike Burke at from the Community Foundation? Mr. Burke is one of the representatives for YAC, and we just see the impact that it has. And the other big piece of this is our future are these kids. Our future are the ones the things that we've screwed up over this generation. I really believe that these kids are going to be the ones that fix it. So I'm super proud of them, but Ms. Phillips, thank you, and you have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Phillips, and I have the pleasure of being the student JAC advisor. I work at Lapeer County Community Foundation, and I have been with the Community Foundation 9 years this week. So I've been working with the youth this whole entire time. I just want to tell you a little bit about YAC. So there are 86 separate YAC groups across Michigan. Back in 1995, I believe, the WK Kellogg Foundation gave us a challenge grant, and they gave that statewide for every county to start a YAC of their own. And so they wanted youth to have a voice in philanthropy, and they wanted the youth to have a say in what happens, and they wanted to teach them about giving back to their local communities. It is a privilege to work with these kids, and I believe that I learn more from them than they do from me. In a time when you hear negative thoughts and ideas and things about kids, I would challenge everybody to look at these sitting in front of you and know that they are going to be the ones that change the world. They have big hearts, they're caring, they show up on Friday nights and wrap gifts for people when most teenagers would be out on Netflix or, whatever they do. And they just have super giving hearts. So they do have a fund with the Community Foundation, which was part of the challenge grant from the WK Kellogg Foundation. Currently, I believe they have $600,000 in their fund. Every year, they get to spend a portion of that money on grants and service projects in the community. So in the last 4 years, they've given back about $100,000 to youth-related needs throughout Lapeer County. And then they're also very active doing service projects throughout the year. They make fleece-type blankets. They buy the fleece with their own money. They buy school supplies and backpacks countywide, stuff them with school supplies, and then they actually deliver those to the schools so that kids in need have easier access to get the backpacks and the school supplies they need. We also adopt families at Christmas time. They shop for the families. We wrap the gifts, and then a couple of them actually come and help deliver the gifts, and that's where the impact is made. One of the things that they're required to do every 3 years is this youth needs survey. And every 3 years, all of the acts in Michigan are supposed to survey the youth in their communities just to find out what it is that the youth believe are the issues. And then what they do is they use the money that they have to spend on grants to try to address the issues for the youth in the county. This is probably the most in-depth survey that we have ever done in Lapeer. And it just happened to hit during COVID, so I think the responses were probably a little bit more raw than what they might have been if we weren't dealing with COVID. And the other thing is that the survey is taken for all of the schools for 7th, 9th, and 11th graders across Lapeer County. So that's Almont, Dryden, Elmwood City, North Branch, Lapeer, Chatfield, at the high school level, and then also at the junior high and middle school level. So it's a big undertaking. These guys come up with the questions that they're going to ask. This year we included a lot about mental health, and that was something in the survey that we had previously left out. And I think what's unique about the survey is that these kids or young adults take the survey and they know that their responses are anonymous. They're free to say whatever it is that they want, and there's no repercussion. Like, it's anonymous. They can say however they're feeling, and quite honestly, I believe there's probably a lot of them that took the survey that have never been asked how do you feel, depending on their home life or their support system that they have. So a lot of the answers that they came up with were very honest and very raw, and it's just very concerning, some of the way that some of these kids are feeling. Some of the responses that you get, some people might not take it seriously, but I would like to believe that the majority of the responses were honest. That's basically it.
No, that's perfect.
Sheriff McKenna, would you like to use that microphone there, or have it turned around maybe?
I can have them.
Just turn the thing around. That helps them.
Up to you, mean?
Just turn the whole podium around, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't-
Don't move it too far because of the cord, but that'll give them something to speak into.
It's because of those speakers that spin it back.
Back this way.
Push it towards me a little.
So nobody move.
Push it this way.
Okay.
We're taking advantage of the fact we can give the sheriff orders.
Yeah.
And that's my wife. I followed
Okay.
them very well.
Good.
Thank you. So thanks, Jen. I appreciate it. Let's do the introductions and then we'll kind of start going through the slide. I don't know if you have a way you want to do it or you just want to go.
You guys can just go up in order when the way it's done.
So what we want you to say is your name, what grade you're in, and what school you're at, please. Tammy, you want to start?
Sure.
Quick on the spot.
My name's Cami Kervison. I go to Lapeer High School and I'm in 11th grade.
My name is Aiden Muir. I go to Lapeer High School and I'm in 10th grade.
My name is Matthew Sells, and I'm in 8th grade at Sheffield.
My name is Hope Schreiber. I go to Elmwood City, and I'm in 11th grade.
My name is Ryan McKenna. I go to Zemmer and I'm in 9th grade.
My name is Lillian Patton, and I'm in 11th grade, and I go to North Branch.
Lily is actually the chair of all of our kids for all of the group, but from North Branch.
My name is Jackson Daves. Go to Lapeer. I'm in 11th grade. My name is Carter Bays, and I go to Lapeer, and I'm in 10th grade. My name is Carter Poniatowski. I'm in 9th grade, and I go to Zemmer.
My name is Riley Nowak. I go to Zemmer and I'm in 8th grade.
My name is Ellen Muir. I go to Zemmer and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Mackenzie Nowak and I'm a junior at Lapeer High School.
My name is Karina Wright. I'm a junior and I go to Lapeer High School.
Excellent. Sure. I could see as it was getting your turn, your breathing getting worse and worse as it was going down the line. Obviously, fantastic kids. Again, we have about half that are here. Every school is represented out of all 5 school districts. So we're super proud of it. We can kind of get into this. The introductions and Ms. Phillips talked about that. That was the one big thing is that we wanted anonymous, and you really saw from the answers that they have. There's some that they can pick in percentages, but then there's some where they could actually write their answers. I would love to, except we'd be here for hours, to read the written responses. We have some of them in here that they said because they took this seriously, especially in the time that they were in. It was very eye-opening to see. And then, of course, you had some funny stuff in there. One of the things we don't get into in here, but it says, what is the one thing your community is missing or your district is missing? Number one answer, 700 answers, Chick-fil-A. The kids want Chick-fil-A. So in every school district, that's the same thing. So obviously, it's very important. We got to get moving on it.
It's good chicken.
It is good chicken. You can't beat it. One thing I want to note before we start getting to the slides, I think one of the biggest things for this is when we see how drastic these results are, especially mental health wise. This happened, or this survey was done prior to the Oxford incident. To be honest with you, it scares me even more to what their answers would be now. I've said obviously with the commissioners and talking, I've been in the schools talking with a lot of them individually. And this rattled our entire community. Obviously, us as adults, I mean, I don't have a problem. I've said it in here before. When I returned from Oxford that day, I sat in my recliner and cried. And I'm proud of that. But I think it's something that these kids are so dealing with things we didn't deal with. And to see what they're doing, to see their results. But I can only imagine what our next survey is going to show. After even more that these kids have been through. So we'll kind of start going into the slides here. I want to explain this before, I'm not sure who has the first one. Here's how we did this. So you're going to see that we had survey topic questions. So this one, for example, is smoking that went to. And again, this is every 7th, 9th, and 11th grader in every district of ours, all 5. What I wanted to do is generically for here, because we have obviously representatives from each community with the commissioners and obviously in the audience, is I wanted to show the question that they get asked is, what do you see as a frequent occurrence? What do you see as a frequent occurrence in your peers, in your schools? So what are you seeing frequently and what percentage of these is? I did it with 2.
Turn that off. Should be.
Do what?
You turn it off, yeah.
I can even turn on here. I know I'm definitely loud enough for you to be able to hear it, so. But what we use, so when there are questions where they had multiple answers or more things that they could put in there, we showed, like in here, this is the number one answer. This is the highest percentage by district, and this is the lowest percentage of that answer by district. So we're given a high and a low between our districts on what they actually were. Not sure who has the first one. Hope.
Okay, so as Jordan kind of said, smoking was my topic, well, the topic asked, and they asked what was frequently occurring, and vaping was the number one, and the high was 72.6%, which is really scary. Vaping is very bad. And then the low was 52.8, and all this, and then the number two was cigarettes, and that was 56.8 as the high, and 11.7 as the low.
Good job, Hope. So just to clarify, because I know it is confusing, as Hope said, 72.6% was the highest out of one of our districts. They saw 72.6% as that it is a frequent occurrence among their peers with them. The lowest district number was 52.8%. I obviously don't have the district, but for an example, say Lapeer is 72.6%, Dryden might have been 52.8%. So we just gave you a high and a low to see where the range was. But good job, Hope. Mackenzie?
Okay, so the topic that I have is alcohol, and it's good that the number one is not an issue, but 53.2% is the high and 23.5% is the low. For social drinking and like events is 42.3%, and the low of that is 23.2%. Drinking and driving is 32.3%, and the low is 10.7%. And then the last one that we have is binge drinking, and it is 17.4% for the high, and 12% for the low.
Good job, Mackenzie. So obviously in there, one of our districts says a frequent occurrence in their school and amongst their peers, 42.3% of the kids are engaging in social drinking. Okay.
So for this slide, the topic is drug use. Number one was marijuana at 54.3% as the high and 32.3% as the low. And then number two is prescription drugs, 18.3% as the high and 5.8% as the low. And then number three was cocaine, 11.7% as the high, 3.2% as the low. And then number four was heroin, 8.7 as the high percentage and 1.9% as the low.
Good job, Cam. I touch on this one a little bit because I get asked all the time about the drug issue through here. And obviously we have it better than a lot of communities, to be straight with you. But I can say, we know obviously with marijuana and the changes that we've had there, prescription drugs, some of the things in there. But when we see in one of our districts that 11.7% sees a frequent use of cocaine in 7th, 9th, and 11th grade, this isn't me telling you this, because I get it all the time, a lot of times when I speak and people go, come on, man, we don't have that issue. I'm not saying we don't have it very well here, as in the community and what we live in and the way we do. But if we got a district that says 11.7% of them see cocaine as a frequent use, heroin is 8.7. Granted, this is the high, but 3.2 and what? Most people don't even know that exists in our community. So this survey, because these kids are being honest and saying, hey, this is part of our lives, it gets your attention a little bit. And a lot of times when I say it, people go, yeah, okay. When the kids are saying it at these percentages and at these numbers, get your attention. Good job, Ian.
So the next topic was driving. The first was texting and driving with a high of 65.4 and a low of 25.8. Next is reckless driving with a high of 44.2, a low of 19.4. And then thirdly is drunk driving with a high of 24% and a low of 10.8%.
Yeah. Okay. Good job. Thank you. I think that one, I think we know this isn't any, some of it isn't hidden. You see it. This problem is this one's just not kids. This is adults. I'll be honest with you, as the highest district, 65.4, I would expect it this higher. When you leave today, just truly ask, when you leave here, pay attention to it. Look at every car that you go by. Look at every stoplight you go into. Everybody is on their phone. We're losing lives because of it. So that's a really powerful one, I think, and I have people that talk about, well, that's just the society we live in. No, we gotta be better, especially when it comes to our kids. We got new drivers. There's a lot of kids in here that just learned driving or have their permits. And to add that to the mix of them trying to understand and see everything that's going on the road, it's scary. And it's something that we have to A, discuss, and B, we have to talk to our kids about as parents.
All right, my topic is peer-to-peer. Number one was bullying, with 56.3% being the high and 32.7% being the low. Second was physical fights, with 52.3% being the high and 30.8% being the low. Third was peer pressure, with 51% being the high and 27.4% being the low. Fourth was ethnic race, 30.7% being the high and 12.6% being the low.
Great job. We hear that one all the time, don't we, the bullying side? What changed the game in bullying for our schools? Social media, right? Because now, and the problem is, again, you're gonna hear me repeat this all the time. This isn't just in kids. Sometimes the parents and the adults are the worst ones, the worst offenders. And when our kids see us doing that or see that online, how do you turn around then and discipline them for the things they're doing? Bullying gave the keyboard warriors the power. If they can go on, they don't say anything in school. Truly, I've said it in front of these kids. Back in our days, we had a problem with somebody. What did we do? We met at the park, battled it out, shook hands, walked away. Tomorrow we were good. Now, nothing said. They go online and embarrass the living heck out of them for the things that they have. And the majority of things that are put on there are completely untrue. And then these kids have to live with it because that's floating around on social media. So the cyberbullying, the bullying and all those things, social media has changed it. And again, it's something that we need to get better at to really combat for how it affects these kids every day.
So I'm in charge of the mental health slide. And before I read this slide, I wanted to say something that Sheriff kind of he agrees with. At the last meeting, I asked all of my peers that, did you, with these numbers, I think it's very, we see it a lot, that bullying is a very big problem at some of our schools, and these numbers are very true. So stressed and being overwhelmed is 80.8% as a high and 60% as a low. The lack of sleep is 80.8% as a high and 64.3% as a low. Depression is 77.8% as a high and 62.9% as a low. Anxiety is at 76% as a high and 65.7% as a low. Self-harm is at 61.1% as a high and 35.5% as a low. Loneliness is at 57.4% as a high and 43.1% as a low. And suicidal thoughts is at 55.6% as a high and 33% as a low.
Good job, Lil. Does that get your attention at all? Go back to when we were growing up. Obviously, these are ranks by numbers and percentages, with the number one answer down to number 7. There's tons of other answers below this, but these are the top 7. Stressed and overwhelmed. Okay, I think we all at that age said that, but take what these kids are dealing with. This is a whole different ballgame. The lack of sleep, obviously that kind of plays in with all of these in there. Depression and anxiety is the same. 77 and 76%. And our low is within 10% of it. I personally can't fathom in 7th, 9th, or 11th grade ever saying that I was suffering and my friends were suffering from depression and anxiety. I can't. These numbers we knew were going to be high. That's why when Ms. Phillips kind of orchestrated it too, coming out of COVID and a lot of the results and things that came from that and what these kids were dealing with, we're going to touch on some of those reasons why these numbers are high. But then go down. Self-harm, 61.1% in our highest district, 35% at the low. Suicidal thoughts, one of our districts, is 55.6% see that as a frequent occurrence in their hallways every day. That's nuts. Okay, a low. This low shouldn't even be this close. 33%. As the lowest district out of all 5 districts, 33% said that suicidal thoughts are something that is in their everyday life. It's absolutely crazy what these kids have to deal with.
Next, we have what causes the most stress. First, we have grades in academics at 84.2% is a high, and 70.9% is a low. Second, we have being too busy. 65.9% is a high, 48.5% is a low. Third was future plans at 58.7% is a high, 29.1% is a low. And home life was fourth with 38.6% is a high and 33% is a low. Sports with 27.9% is a high, 19.9% is a low. Finally, bowling at 24.3% is a high, and 11.7% is a low.
Good job, buddy. I think the one, obviously, they all stand out. We all kind of tie into each other. And you see some of the responses after this, the written responses. But one of the big things, especially because of putting them online, then we're bringing them back to school, and then we put them back online. Grades and academically, these kids, how they do it, I have no idea. How these kids kept their grades up. And you got scholar athletes that are scholar academics that their grades dropped drastically because they had to transition back and forth. So great, I think back then grades and academics were always high for us, but to do it in the environment that they had to deal with, I can't even tell.
So we asked the students, how has COVID negatively affected you? And number one was missing childhood events at 64.2% is the high and 51.5% is the low. And second was academic performance at 63.3 is the high and 32.5 is the low. And third, feeling lonely was 43.7% and 39.8% as the low. Worst mental health at 41.9% is the high and 29.1 is the low. And fifth, fear of getting sick is 22.5% and 14.6% is low. And sixth, fear of losing family at 21.7% is the high and 12.2 is the low.
Good job, too. Look at, we got any of our seniors in here? So, for example, my son's a senior. He's going to his first prom of his high school career here in 2 weeks. When we talk about missing childhood events, and I have people say to me, oh, they're kids, it's crap. These kids lost everything through this. And the childhood events, that's part of what your childhood is about, is growing up, is being with your friends, going to a dance, going to a football game, going to a band concert, a cheer event, all these things. And you see they all kind of tie in together. But you see that, especially with those, well, all of them, they all kind of coincide with each other. But these kids have been dealt a very, very rough plate. So I'm going to do this one. We asked them, and we're going to come back. We're going to say, because if we're going to present them with what are the negatives, we're going to follow up with the positives in their words. But things that were asked after these is we allowed them to write something, to actually physically put something down that they felt that it was. So we asked them in the same question from before, the negatives that were not listed in your own words of how COVID affected you. So these are answers written by kids in our district. They're in school or in here right now. My anxiety and depression keeps getting worse. Number 2. I don't feel the same anymore, even after quarantine ended. Number 3, I feel less connected to people. I can't hug, hold hands, or really any close contact with family and friends. Look at number 4. I am stuck in a downward spiral with no escape. That's a kid saying that. That somewhere in our district or sitting in a classroom right now that is dealing with things that we cannot fathom. I am stuck in a downward spiral with no escape. Number 5, I can't keep my grades up going back and forth online. Number 6, I think could probably be the header of this entire thing. I just want to be a kid. My mental health is horrible. My dad died. Not being able to see someone's face. I lost my best years to play sports in school. It put so much stress on my family. I miss my friends and social interaction. I can't get my freshman and part of my 8th grade year back. People have become so cruel during this time. I will never go to a prom. Well, obviously in 11th grade last year. When people see PowerPoints or things that we're doing in training sessions, they read them as words, as literature. These are coming straight out of the mouth of a 7th, a 9th, or an 11th grader, ranging from 14 to 17 years old, that are saying these things are on the board. The bad part is, obviously, we have time constraints with this. I could sit here for a couple hours reading these to you, and they have the same impact that these do.
In what ways have you been positively affected by COVID? The number 1 was they're able to learn new things, with the high being 41.9% and the low 2 was they're closer to their family. High was 37.4% and 25.8% was the low. Improvement, the high was 31.7% and 27.4% is the low. And then 4th was becoming adaptable. The high was 29.2% and the low is 18.4%.
It's only fair that we ask the positive side, because I have people that will say, okay, let's look at some of the positive things. This is why when I say that I think these kids are going to change our world and fix the things that we've screwed up, is because they're resilient through this. They still do adapt and still do find ways to get better, to learn new things, closer to family, self-improvement, become adaptable. They still found ways to get better in the craziness that was still surrounding them.
Next, we got home environment. Lack of family support is at 42%, being 42.6%, and the low of 24.2%. Number 2, economic struggles, 32.7%, 16.3% low. 3rd, fear of losing home, 32.7%, 8.6% is low. 4, scarce food supply, 18.8% is a high, 9.2% is low.
Good job, buddy. Lack of family support, highest district, 42.6%. Almost half of that district feels they don't have any family support. Even on the low end, a quarter of those kids feel that way. There's another one that's a different angle to look at. When we think kids aren't paying attention, 32.7% of one of the districts worry about the economic struggle. 32.7, which is interesting to me that these are the same in the same district, 8.6 on the low. You worry about things, you don't think kids pay attention to stuff about mom and dad losing their house, the economic struggles that they had through these times. You want to bring real reality into your life, and we talked about this, all the kids and Jen and I did. 18.8% in one district are worried about where they're going to get food. Scarce food supply. Makes me realize that my troubles really aren't that big.
Our topic was school environment. What do you see as an issue? Number 1 is feeling respected by staff. 34.7% is the high and 17.5% is the low. 2nd is outdated resources. 32.7% is the high and 16.1% is the low.
3rd was scheduling, 24.2% is the high, 16.3% is the low. Fourth was access to counselors. The high was 22.3% and the low was 12.6%. The fifth and final one was access to food, school food. The high was 13.6% and the low was 4.9%.
Excellent, Jack. This topic kind of comes into multiple areas, as we know. Some of it even being resources in our schools. We look at the one, obviously, I deal with it so much with the schools. Obviously, we have the staff part of it, the outdated resources, a lot of things that we have in our county, the scheduling that was bouncing around on them, but access to counselors. In our schools, our counselors are completely overrun. When we have such a large student body throughout our counties, and we have 2 counselors in a school that are handling 1,500 kids in the high school at Lapeer, 1 in these different areas, we can scream and holler about what those counselors are doing or not doing, but we get them some damn help. Because we see the numbers. Stuff is not coming from me that I can twist. Let's be truthful about stats. We can put anything out there that we want to show to the public. These are coming from 7th, 9th, and 11th graders. These are true facts that people are saying that they're crying for help. Didn't go into this one because there's a lot going to this. One of the things that we ask each one of them, more we'll do individually in the community, is do you feel safe at school? The overall percentage was yes. But individually at each one, we'll break them down because there was a lot of stuff, and obviously with time constraints to try to get through it, I wasn't able to.
My topic was what to be positive about your community. The number one answer was good friends with a high of 75.6% and a low of 68.3%. The next is strong family relationships with a high of 38.8% and a low of 28.6%. People helping each other is a high of 38.3% and a low of 35%. Feeling of safety is a high of 36.9% and a low of 19.4%. School activities is a high of 33.3% and a low of 28.6%. Technology availability is a high of 32.7% and a low of 25%. And sports facilities is a high of 32.4% and a low of 30.2%.
Great job. It's interesting when you see this because you find the things that are important to their kids, the things that they need to survive on a daily basis, but not only in the world that we've lived in the last couple of years. One of the big things that I see out of this is the positives is their friends. We have strong communities with kids with great relationships. Unfortunately, for a period of time, they didn't have that option to be with those kids. Let's be truthful, I told you I'm super blunt, probably to a fault. Some of these kids need to rely on their friends over their home environment because they have people that will talk with them. These kids can relate, they can understand that. Some of those don't have those conversations or that strength or that support or guidance at home that each one of them needs. So where do they get that from? Their friends. Just be truthful. They get it from teachers. They get it from coaches. People that are huge influence on making them what they are today. So I just want to show a couple of these things. I'm looking time-wise, we're about right on the money. So we are going to have to roll here. If you had one thing in your community to improve it, what would it be? We have a whole list of things, obviously with Chick-fil-A at the top of it. I won't, because of time and because of us having to get over there, I would say to the commissioners, do you have any questions for the kids? I can't really open it up because we have to get over there, but if you have something, I'd be more than happy to have the kids answer it for you. Any questions towards that? Yes, sir.
Maybe one. This survey was done how long ago?
Last school year.
Maybe, do they feel that there has been any significant change in how people might answer that given 1 year going by?
Anyone want to take that?
maybe there was like, maybe more help at school, like, I don't, like on the counselor aspect of like maybe mental health, like, we have 2 counselors and they schedule, like they do scheduling. I don't think that's maybe one area that our school needs to fix. I think that some things have gotten better, like food and stuff, like our school was serving like sloppy joes like twice a week because they couldn't get, any food in. I think that's gotten a lot better. We have a second choice instead of just one choice.
And it's funny because the last survey we did, one of the things they talked about, and I told Mr. Fish at North Branch, I'm like, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but your food must not be good. It was on your survey nonstop. Jim said, I'll fix that. But you were gonna answer that question also.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a lot of the same stuff, like some stuff's a lot better probably, because like COVID being done. At that same time, like the Oxford shooting, a lot of stuff is worse, like mental health and like school safety and stuff like that.
Excellent point. Anybody else got anything they wanted to add to that? Good job. I know this is hard, especially being in front of anybody, but great question. Anything else, Commissioner? So, thank you.
We applaud them for their answer.
And I would say, one, thank you for allowing us to do this, for the community that sat here. I love when we do these, I hate when we do these things because of the content we talk about, but I love when we do this because I see, just by looking at all of you, the impact that it has on you. It is something that we have to talk about, that we have to be open about, things we have to discuss. I say this again, and probably shouldn't, and I take heat over it, but I say it all the time. After the Oxford shooting, Lapeer Community Schools we did a forum with Chief Frisch, myself, and Superintendent Wandry to talk about their families and what these kids were going through and things that we could do and resources that they could have to get through that. Obviously in a time where the whole community, our entire county was struggling. In that meeting, we posted the public forum. In that meeting, there was between 40 and 50 people that showed up. There were 200 online that were watching it. That room should have been packed, talking about how we can improve and help our kids through this. The other part of that is, and again, I probably should shut my mouth instead of saying things that I do. The 40 to 50 people that were in there, or the 200 online, were probably the ones that didn't need to be listening to it. We have to get better as adults and parents to talk with these kids and make their lives better. Why I think they'll do it, they've been through it. To be honest with you, when you talk to some of them, you can see they're angry with what's going on. And that's why I really believe that as you look at these kids that stand up here, this isn't easy to do, and you know that of them. But for them to come here and stand up in front of us and present like they did today and talk about things that are really tough, let's be honest too, these are high school kids, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade, or obviously this one is 7 through 12. They're getting up talking about things in their school. It takes a lot of strength to do that. With the peer pressure and things there for them to get up and be a representative to make our community better. We all personally thank you, each and every one of you, for doing this today and being part of this program, because these are things that will change our community for the better. How about a big round of applause for you? What we're going to do, and Mr. Bishop, thank you for all of your hard work with this. I can't thank you enough for everybody that, so that the community knows. We are going to be going over, obviously it'll be a closed forum, but we're going to be going over the courthouse. Crystal is going to be doing some conversations, some one-on-ones with the kids or us talking about some of these topics. The game plan with that will be, if we are videotaping it with the TV crew, we've talked to the kids about this stuff, and we then will be kind of dialing it down, splicing it together to put some of the things out that we can show and give to every one of our districts and our parents to hopefully have them see the issues that these kids are dealing with. It'll be something that we'll put out there to the entire community on many platforms. It's going to take a while to edit to where we want to get to, but I think it's something that will be a huge benefit to our community in helping that. And I think for the other part of the kids, and I'll tell them that over there, you are really part of something special. And there's not too many. It makes me realize as I look at each one of you how big of a loser I was in school. Super proud of you. So if we go for the kids, we'll go upstairs, we'll go up here, and then we'll go across to the old courthouse.
Okay, if I can very
Yeah.
quickly just say thank you on behalf of the board for the kids, I wouldn't say kids, young adults who are here, the time that you put in on the committee and your willingness to share this survey. It is appreciated. Keep talking. We need to listen. Adults sometimes are better talkers than listeners. So keep talking at us. Sometimes it takes a little while for that information to get through. So thank you to you, to the sheriff, and I'd ask Nancy Boxey if you want to, on behalf of the Community Foundation, make any final comment?
Oh, I just want to say we really appreciate this opportunity in the forum and your time that you've given our students. They are, if you read the back of their shirts, they represent deep voices in philanthropy. And they are the future of it. They're made possible through everyone sitting in this room in our community to allow them to do what they do and the generosity. So we're just really excited for them and what they're going to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a slight break, a couple minutes here while the students head elsewhere and we get rearranged. We'll resume our meeting. Where'd you get that? Reset. Thank you, Commissioners.
Now we gotta move the resolution. So it doesn't.
It'll work.
Just go closer.
It'll work. It's fine.
So just have to finish that work.
So what's doing exciting, Greg? What's the missus doing? What's the missus doing? Good. Now, your dog, is she still a terror? She's gotta go stay at Tom's this weekend. Oh. No, it's he got everything out of his house that he just sold. When did when people take ownership? They closed last Wednesday. Oh, so he's done. Yeah. Good for him. Awesome. Oh, I bet. Did Tom tell you the exciting things that we're doing the weekend? So we're doing Thursday with Kevin, Paul, Tom, and I are going.
Do you want your microphones back on?
The Fenway. Yes, it's been a lifelong dream of mine. I've never.
The red switch. Oh, I didn't.
Testing. Is there sound back there?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
I do need this.
Thank you, Jeff.
Short answer. So in my lifetime, the only Detroit sports.
Okay, that was a pretty powerful presentation of things that all of us should be thinking about, concerned about. We're going to move into our regular agenda where we have both department heads and then the public sharing. We ask, given the length of the presentation, that you keep your comments today a little briefer perhaps than normal. And as there are several things going on after this that we're going to be tight on too, I think. Having said that, though, any departments that wish to make comments at this point? All right. Meeting mental health.
I know you're interested in time, but as the director of the local community mental health, I can't help but comment on the sobering statistics we just heard. You know, when you start looking at some of the statistics, you start looking at the home environment, then you're starting to get into social determinants of health, when you have food scarcity, you know, worrying about where they're gonna live. Those are all social issues that drive mental health issues. So when you see those social determinants of mental health and health start to decline in terms of foods, you know, a sense of not having food security, not having housing security, not having the security of your family, it's not surprising that you see all of those other issues start to become more and more, because a lot of those social issues drive the mental health and health of everyone in our community. So I guess I want to reinforce that it's important that we pay attention. You know, certainly we have a mental health crisis, but I think when we start addressing that, we got to start addressing it from the bottom up. If you remember basic psychology at Maslow's theory of Maslow's hierarchy, you have to start with your basics, your food, your shelter, your relationships, before you get up to the top where you have good mental health or a good feeling about yourself. So I just want to reinforce that I think as a community, certainly we have to address the mental health, but we also have to step back and we have to look at those social determinants that are at the bottom of that pyramid, and we have to pay attention to those as well.
Thank you. Any other department heads want to comment on topics at this point? Seeing none, then, on to the public.
I'm like, we both paused, so I might as well just go.
Ladies first.
Oh, thanks. Hi, I'm Christy Groce. I'm with Advisacare. We are here, me and my coworker Julie, to again talk about the auto reform. Again, we want to say that our company does agree with the changes that were made for the auto reform. What we do feel is that the home care agencies were an unintended consequence of it. We have had 16 counties now adopt the resolution that we have presented. Just going to fix what the home care agencies are being reimbursed. We're being reimbursed at a rate of $14 to $18 an hour. Some car agencies are reimbursing us at $12 an hour, and you can't hire employees for $12 an hour. So when you pay your employees $14 to $18 an hour to go into a home to take care of someone, for them to survive for all of their daily living activities, and then put on your business expenses on top of that, we are losing money. Home care agencies have had to close their doors. We are hanging on by a thread. So our request is at every Board of Commissioners meeting to just be put on your agenda. We would like to be able to come in, give a presentation, have it be an open floor format, so you guys can ask questions about the resolution that we are just being asked for you to support, and answer all of those for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments?
I'm Julie with Advisacare for Healthcare. To go what, Christy said, and I can't imagine being the young people of today, right? But it's crazy. I also can't imagine driving down the road, going for milk and getting hit by a car. And now I can't move. I can't support my family. I need caregivers 24/7 just to use the bathroom. Now that care is being taken away. I can tell you last week, I got a call for a client in Elmont. She's been living at home for 15 years. The insurance companies won't pay for her care, not even when caregivers are matron. Therefore, they want to put her in a nursing home. Someone who can live at home, why? There's no point in that. We just had to give notice yesterday on the client about her lake that we have to discharge because we can no longer afford to care for him. Guess what? He's gonna be in a nursing home. He was a dentist. He was a prominent dentist, and somebody hit him. Yeah. And now he's gonna have to go live in a nursing home because the insurance won't pay enough to keep staff. These people are gonna make it in nursing homes. We just wanna talk about this. We need it to come. Everybody needs to realize what's happening. And it's happening here, not just, Genesee. It's in Lapeer. I take these calls weekly, and it's hard to tell families, I'm sorry, your loved one's gonna have to go to a nursing home, even though the loved one's 18.
Others, Anderson.
Pierce, Haddon Township. Good morning. Great presentation by the young people of the community from our schools. Makes me very thankful to my Lord and Savior that He granted us the ability in my home to raise 8 beautiful kids. We've got 2 left in the house to graduate that we homeschooled all these years. And my kids were not actually subjected to this on a daily basis that these kids are subjected to in the public schools. From what I understand, some of the private schools are the same way. Some of the private schools have a worse probably average on drug usage and alcohol usage and things like that. Surprising to me. But I would like to remind the board and everyone listening, He is risen.
Amen.
Couple things were said today that was talking about resiliency in kids, and I really do, I've heard it so many times, and I guess now we can never say again that all kids are resilient, because all kids are not resilient. And something else that was talked about where kids get support, I have to tell you, and I think even through these planned times of destruction of family, some of my best support was not my friends. It was my friends' parents who stepped in. And I grew up in the 60s. I'm telling you, I saw things in the 60s and nobody asked me how I felt. There was a lot of things in the 60s. I had 3 older siblings, saw a lot. I think something that was for the destruction of families, these slides showed a couple of positive things. Some of these kids are closer to their family. Praise God, they're closer. And they're empowered. And years ago, there was a list of 20 things that for survival or for like the survivalists. And one of the things was to learn new skills. And these kids did it because they had time. They weren't in school all that time. So those were 2 positives that I received out of this. The whole thing about the vaccines, again this week on social media, it was constant bombardment on social media. AARP, ivaccine.org, MDHHS, Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. And they were targeting minorities, telling about these pop-up clinics in North Flint, different areas. They're targeting these folks. They're targeting children, the elderly, and minorities with all of this. It needs to stop. I don't care what anybody says, well, at this level, it's the money that's up here that's being spent. Speak up. That's all I can say. Also, VAERS came out this week with their report. Knowledge is power as of 4/11/22. They had 12 to 15, 16 to 17, 18-year-old, all these shots. And there are thousands just from the time of January 3rd to April 11th, all the way back to September of last year till April 11th. And we are talking terrible. Not just, the worst is death, headaches, pain, fatigue, chills, nausea, dizziness, things that I can't even pronounce. I'm not a doctor. Anyway, go to VAERS. Go read it for yourself. There was a meme this week. It was a little kid that said something about a particular person being gone before they wake. And he just said, I pray, oh Lord, the news isn't fake.
And then just a little update on Marathon Township's wonderful decision this last week. They voted 4-2 to let the special land use move forward with preliminary reports and studies. We had the Climatville Community Center packed. I mean, there was a little room for a few more folks, but it was full. And it was voted 4-2, and the two that dissented had great questions that were not answered, and that's why they voted no. A couple people, the other members of the planning commission were giddy as they shook hands with those that were coming for the special land use, and everybody else just shook their head. No worries though, because there's a couple people that had a heads up about this whole thing, and guess what? They headed out. They've already sold their homes. And then the other thing I guess that I'd like to talk about is, again, Open Meetings Act. Open Meetings Act, the spirit of the Open Meetings Act is to do what is right, not required. It shows different, whatever you want to call them, rules in the Open Meetings Act. Those are the rules, they're required. But you know what? If public government, organizations, associations did the right thing, they'd open up the Open Meetings Act. Thank you.
Any other? Okay, we do have a second time, we'll come back at that point. We've had our presentation, so we really are moving to draft motions. And the first one is committee of the whole. So ask Commissioner Schneider to take us through those.
Okay, near the back of your packet, 5 pages of draft motions from last week's April 14th committee of the whole meeting. Several of them are resolutions, and all of those resolutions were roll call. So,
I think there's one.
There's one you'll need to do again today.
Yeah, for the drains.
so when we get to number 5 on the drains, we'll roll call that one, otherwise we're entering into the minutes. So I'll move 1 through 4, which is pages 1, 2, and 3 of the agenda.
And, yeah, 1, 2, and 3. Any support we got from Commissioner Jarvis? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
And on page 4 is motion 5, involving the drains, maintenance level, maintenance and repair of roof level. And that's contained on page 4 or 5. Moving the roll call vote. I'll move that.
All right.
And I want to back up, I'm sorry, number 2, because I was trying to find it, and number 2 was one, I was voting no on that, so we can separate that, I appreciate that. I don't know if you just did that, but I was looking for, I didn't say yes or no, but still gonna yes.
You'd have to do it on the comments, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let you take it.
Okay, I voted no last time, I'm just trying to bring that back to attention, but I apologize. I was trying to look at it real quick.
Yeah, unfortunately, we just can't reverse
Okay.
an action, I think.
I thought we were we could still.
So we have a motion now for number 5, and we're going to need roll call vote.
Commissioner Schneider?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner Jarvis? Yes. Commissioner Henning?
Yes. Okay, now, in the packet on motion 6, I've got a note here that this doesn't really require action.
It was a referral motion, and it'll be sent to next week's agenda.
Okay, so
we will.
the motion number
Starting
6, we do not need to act on today. That's just
Correct.
moved to the next week. So I will move on to 5 or 5, motion 7 through 10.
Motion and support, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay. Then moving on to personnel. Commissioner Schneider. A number of items, if you would go
We
through.
do have a number of items, and the very last one might end up based on a report that we get from administration, may or may not involve a more actionable motion today. Motion number 7 just deals with referring the topic, making a recommendation. I'll explain that one in a second. But motions 1 through 6 are all no cost to county general fund, for lack of a better term, housekeeping motions of filling vacancies that occurred from resignations or terminations or retirements, with the exception of motion number 2. That one is discussing the county practice. So just try and disregard some of the order for a second and stay consistent with what the motions are. I will move motions 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 dealing with filling vacancies. And all those vacancies, again, throughout county departments, no additional cost to county general, just replacing existing positions.
One thing I think maybe we need to point out would be motion 1 does have a slight wrinkle in it, in that we're asking for some overlap of a position for 911 because they have extensive training to authorize, to get that person ready to be able to perform.
Yeah, for the board's information, we've done that before on key positions where we'll go ahead and, so again, that's going to be absorbed within the county department, and that's just to make sure that a skilled position has time to train up a new position.
Any other discussion or questions on those items?
No, but
This is 1, 3,
and that
4,
also will
5,
save
6.
on overtime by having that fill that overlap, so it'll save us some. It'll also help us in saving on some overtime in that area, so.
Yes. Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No.
And then on motion number 2, that's a motion that the board did not have any policy, standard operating procedure, or whatever, and our motions that kind of sunsetted actions. And that came to our attention recently, and so motion number 2 is to affirm that it's a county practice that when we do authorize filling a vacancy or subsequent vacancies within the department due to an internal promotion, for example, that those actions must be filled within a 6-month period of time. And without that occurring, then they have to come back to the board again for action. So hopefully it motivates departments to move when we take action and authorize, and because budgetary situations can change over the course of a budgeted year, if it hasn't happened within 6 months, it's gotta come back. So that's motion 2. I'll move it.
Support it.
Motion and support. Further discussion? That's change of policy is pretty clearly stated. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
And then lastly, on motion number 7, we had a presentation by our administrative controller, and I will let him go into that because he was going to update us with possibly some additional information that may or may not have been further examined over the course of the past week, but basically it came to personnel because of a time issue. We're in April, and of course our emergency manager, Mary, who has served us in the county well for an extended 20-year, I think, career now. She is retiring, and we need to fill that position, and our administrator controller came up with a thought, explored that thought with the key individual and authorities involved in that. The concept itself makes good sense as far as a win-win, and because we didn't have the exact information, because it had to come from another authority that met this week. and then came back to us. We referred that concept, is what the motion says. We referred that concept to move forward with the recommendation from personnel to come to this body. This body may or may not take action then today, depending on the information. So again, I ask the board to keep in mind the time constraints that we're under. April 29th is a retirement date, with the fact that we need to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row for any action. So with that introduction, I'll let our administrative controller bring you up to speed and then see what the board's pleasure is.
Thank you, excuse me, I appreciate the time. As Commissioner Commissioner Snyder just mentioned, that the concept was to bring under 911 and the authority board, bring over a portion of our existing emergency management responsibilities under the responsibility of our current 911 director. So after speaking with Mary, working with her over a year and a half, she has given the county 26 years of wonderful experience. Will not replace her. We can't replace her. She is a department of one, and holding that mantle for as long as she did is very commendable. As I started to look at not only her position and what we would like to do with that department moving forward, I realized the key aspects of the job: preparedness, communication, community involvement, being an analytical mind and having operational know-how on how to move hazard mitigation plans through the system, having them through compliance, making sure that they are all approved in a timely manner, and then meeting the demands of Lansing as the rules of that game change continuously. So you need to have somebody adapt at knowing state statute. So as I started thinking about how are we going to find this person under the type of labor crunch that we are in, the concept was developed that we look at our current 911 director, this is Jeff. We look at his skill set, and they do match, in my opinion. And my recommendation is that while we take an existing position from emergency management, we would move that to a part-time position that Jeff would take over. Now, in concept form, everybody would say, well, how do you take a full-time position and move it to a part-time position? You typically don't, unless you have the right skill set and the right talent to take on those responsibilities. Jeff possesses those responsibilities. I vetted Jeff. We've went through the process. We've asked the tough questions. We went through scenarios, and he meets muster. There's no doubt about it. Taking the concept, we took it to the 911 Authority Board. They have authority over Jeff's position. Introduced the concept to them as a full board. They liked the position. They came back with 3 recommendations. We then confer those recommendations, and these are what they are. The authority of the 911 board would be able, in a 6-month repeating, every 6 months, have a performance review of Jeff to make sure that what he is doing as a 911 director is staying above board. If at any given time they feel like he is not keeping up with the roles and responsibilities, they have the authority to pull him from the position. It being an emergency management department, which is under my direct authority, I've asked that I retain my position. So if I see emergency management not meeting deadlines, a lack in community involvement, not filling out state statute paperwork on time in a timely fashion, if those things are not done, I have the authority to pull Jeff from that position and we repost. I think the 6-month review is key. I would just like to talk about the numbers. The numbers did not drive the decision, but they complemented the decision. Currently, right now, our emergency management director is right around $52,000. 35% of that is covered by the state of Michigan through reimbursements. So what does that equate to? That equates to $33,500 that the county pays for that position and all things of that department, well, salary specifically, okay? The reduction of price of $20,000 going in as an other pay line item for Jeff, which still comes out of our budget from the emergency management. The 35% equates to $7,000. We would then only owe $13,000 from the county. It's over a savings of $15,000+ that the county is going to save simply by moving talent that already exists and combining a role that Jeff is very well prepared to take on. It's a win-win. It's a complete win-win in my opinion, and I think I'd like to, I'm asking for the recommendation to move this forward, to move Jeff into that position, and we begin the trial to see if this is a good fit, all the while saving the county $15,000+.
And I support that with full disclosure that I sit both on EMAC board and I'm on the 911 authority board. Discussions back and forth with him, how this one person can handle all that. It would come up under, we're talking about all the heads of the county, your police chief, your fire chief, your sheriffs. All of them felt very, very comfortable with what we're talking about. I had a lot of questions, some things for the state, some things for us, and those are all answered. So we've done our due diligence. I've been in several emergency meetings so we can get to this point because they came on us so quick. But I think the move at this point was the right move. And as Quentin said, it's every 6 months we get to relook at this and see what's happening. In the same position, the burden that may be put on Jeff, if he can't handle it in 6 months, he also has the right to pull that. So I think it's a good thing for the county. We are in good hands in this county, have been, and I think this is just another transition to that to make it nice and smooth. So.
Other comments, questions from board members?
Couple comments and then one question. So comments, first of all, again, it'd be remiss if we didn't note how fortunate Lapeer County is to be able to have the creative, forward-thinking mind of the administrative controller that we now have, the capabilities and the dedication of a 911 director in Jeff that has both the ability and the initiative to take on something like this. And then the collaborative nature of Lapeer County in general to be able to work with an authority. I think all three of those are key components in making something like this work, especially on short notice, especially in the environment that we have right now, or labor shortages and things of that nature. So needed to mention that. Also, it's not too far from the concept that I mentioned we did long ago, where we had a buildings and grounds director, and then we had parks that got downsized during the Great Recession to the point that we ended up with no staff. Basically, we had the parks at virtually a passive nature, and eliminated the parks director position, implemented those responsibilities into a buildings and grounds, and ended up with buildings, grounds, and parks director like we still have now. The difference, same flavor. The difference, the one that made this one unique, is the parks, the buildings, grounds, parks was all under the county. This one having a different authority over a different section of it. And I think the way that was worked out with the review process, that all three parties, both the authority and the county, and then the employee, finding favor, and I think that helped with that issue. But again, I want to note that it's very analogous to something that we have done before. And then last but not least, I think because of the timeline, I'd be ready to make a motion today to solidify that. The only question that isn't always contained in the motion, but is the actual compensation portion of that. So is that something that we want or need in the motion, or a recommendation as to, because right now the motion would be to merge the emergency management duties with the E911 Central Dispatch Director through a mutual agreement with the 911 Authority due to an anticipated resignation effective 4/29 of 22. Is within that motion, do we need to address anything else regarding pay? Because we do have, of course, the study underway. Is that something that's going to be addressed in the future? Is it your recommendation that needs to be crafted into the motion now to move the action forward?
Wouldn't we also need a job description?
We have that prepared.
But not for this meeting. So would it be better to put this on the next committee of the whole for final action? Prove it in concept and move forward with that.
We'd like to take a 5-minute recess. I'll bring the job descriptions down and have them put in front of you right now. It's the exact same job description as Mary's. Exact same job description with four employment conditions. 911 Authority has the ability to dismiss. I have the ability to dismiss. There's a 6-month performance review. And then the fourth one is that Jeff will maintain status of EMAC, he'll maintain the status of EOC, and engage in community development.
So we already have within the motion with, through a mutual agreement. So would you prefer to say through a mutual agreement and revise the job description and leave it at that? Because again, if we weren't looking at the deadline, we would probably move it forward. Even if we moved it 1 week with authority, that puts us a day before.
I would put it this way too. We're in the middle of a wage study, which job descriptions are being updated as we speak. So we're gonna go through the effort of editing a job description, which will then be edited here in the next 30 days. What we need to do by statute is have somebody in for the emergency management position. I believe the fit is good. The job description is not changing. There's nothing in addition, or I would not edit anything from Mary's current job description. So Jeff would have to do that. Everything's incorporated. There's no additional duties or there's no reduction of duties. I actually need all the duties listed. I need them all there.
And I support that because, and I support that because, like you said, job descriptions are already in place. We've already approved those. He only added those 4 points, and that could be attached to the agenda. He can have that down, so it can be added to it. So he gave you the bullet points. We already know the verbiage. It is exactly that. Nothing changes on the job description whatsoever.
So going back to my original question on the wages, what is your recommendation?
$20,000 on a prorated basis. The current job right now pays $52,000. We receive 35% reimbursement from the state. So what that means is 35% reimbursement from the state. We receive $18,200 to go towards a full-time emergency management position. That also means that we pay, the county out of the general fund pays $33,500 for that full-time position. Okay. My recommendation with a $20,000 stipend, prorated. So this first year we've paid the existing emergency management director's wages up until this point. So we'll take a per pay. We have 26 pays in a year. We take a per pay basis, and then whenever that next person we start, we pay on that per pay basis.
So if the motion that I mentioned to you also had an insert in there that said at a $20,000 a year prorated additional salary.
Perfect.
I'm gonna at least make the motion to put it on the table, then if there's a second, then see if there's any other discussion. So the motion, rather than number 7 in front of you right now, the motion that I'm making is to merge the emergency management duties with the E911 Central Dispatch Director through a mutual agreement with the 911 Authority and at a $20,000 a year prorated additional salary due to an anticipated resignation effective 4/29/22.
And I'll support that motion.
Yes, so we have a motion of support.
With the word agreement, will there be signatures that need to be collected? And who shall sign?
As the department head, I will sign for the emergency management, and as chair of the 911 Authority Board, which is
Mike Burke Senior.
Mike Burke Senior, he would accompany my signature. Is that all? Is that?
Those words will be a part of the motion to authorize
Okay, so we're adding that to.
the entities to sign,
So at the very end, and authorize the
county
appropriate,
controller and authority board.
Or chairman? Chairperson?
that'll work.
Okay. I'll support that.
A couple of quick areas.
Oh, drafting on the fly.
One would be the 6-month review. If the authority board or we were to decide that it wasn't working sooner than 6 months, is that an open option that the position could be changed again?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The 6-month review is a separate bullet point from the performance review. That's just the official performance review. At any given time, as head over the emergency management department, I pull Jeff and say, hey, these metrics aren't working out. We've missed deadlines. These are some issues we need to, button up. You need to improve. Month goes by. Do I see the improvement? Great. You have the position. It doesn't improve. Hey, we need to make a different decision, move a different direction. That's it. That's simple. And the 911 Authority Board has to.
This is brand new and could be a big load that he's not aware of.
And we gave him 30 days too. In 30 days, he can give us 30 days to say, I can't do it. So he has the ability, and we trust in his ability. And then it was highly recommended, like I said, from all the people in Lapeer County that are in that position, in that emergency management. Two of them agreed with us. And so giving him that 30 days, giving us that 6-month review, just in case we say, okay, you're not really seeing him first thing, we could pull it, or they could pull it. So everybody was covered at that meeting.
I think the concern would be, this is potentially a lot of work. Worked very full-time job at it. There are some parts of the job that are required and have fixed deadlines to them.
Mhm.
Others, when I think of community education and building and maintaining relationships with human service agencies and governmental units, it's sort of vague and nebulous, but require often a lot of time.
Yeah, I would ask Jeff to be an active participant with the community collaborative that meets every other month, 35 participants. A lot of the nonprofit sector represent themselves. That's the human services component of Lapeer County. If it not were for his skill set, I would have tanked this idea as soon as I thought it, right? Because I understand, and I have to give credit where credit's due. Mary, in her position, has done a fantastic job. She's carried the load of the director for 26 plus years. If it not for Jeff's skill set, we'd be having a different conversation. But when you have talent and you have the ability to pull something off and create savings and create professionalism within that position, that's the wins we're looking for. So I don't want to leave any opportunity on the table and not pursue it if it leads to a win.
I mean, no question on skill set, just time.
Now,
You can only divide yourself
And that
into how many
question
pieces.
presented several times, and if we can, I would like Jeff to talk for a minute about his skill sets and how he feels the transition. And everybody that's involved, if Mary's on vacation, Jeff knows how to handle that situation. If so, some of the other chiefs in the area would step in if something happened with Jeff. So we kind of looked at the backup where that is, and we were secure with that.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the skill set. I want to make sure that he feels comfortable to lower to something that can be managed.
Jeff, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. Mike wanted to give a quick question. He's on the.
Yeah, can I just step in here for a second? The time is a big factor. I along with Rick, sat on the ENAC board, I sat on the 911 authority board. I've dealt with Mary and all the time, I've given kudos and so forth. I've dealt with her from the police side, the fire side, and on the politician side. To piggyback on what Mr. Snyder said, the collaborative effort here in Lapeer County, I've saw more Quentin and Rick here in the last 2 weeks because we sit on these boards together to facilitate this. One of the time issues with Mary is she sits on these boards from a emergency management position. So does Jeff. So some of the time aspects is a wash because Jeff is already there representing 911. So that's out of Mary's hands now, or out of the emergency management directors, because he's already at these meetings. He's already attending these, whether it's the chief of police, whether it's EMAC, whether it's 911, he's already there. So there is no additional weight on this position for Jeff because he's already there just wearing a different hat. Now he's going to be at the same meetings wearing 2 hats. There's no additional time. As far as the paperwork and so forth, that's more the administrative side, and to what Mr. Bishop has already explained quite well. He's already demonstrated that he's more than capable of doing that, and he already has an understanding from the 911 side and the process of getting those things done. And then to talk about his background, Marine, so he can handle the under fire issues and so forth. So if piggybacking on what Mr. Quentin or Mr. Bishop said, if it was somebody else, we maybe had reservations. Knowing Jeff and knowing that he's already there in these and having dealt with him from the 911 authority side for X number of years, it was really easy. And the fact that we only have 4 bullet points, and it's basically just putting it in writing, solidifying that each entity has the ability to have some say whether or not this is working. That speaks volumes and how little there was to change, to your point about the job description.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Do you want to make any comments, or we covered this?
All I'll say is that, the proposal that Mr. Bishop has brought forward is not uncommon throughout the state. Many places throughout the state, the 911 director is also the emergency manager, or a sergeant at a sheriff's office is the emergency manager, is part-time, is full-time. It varies across the state, so this is not a unique situation. So it's been done before, it's being done today, it'll be done tomorrow. So, I mean, I've been here 20 years, you guys know what I've done, how much I've done for the 911 and the county and all that, so I don't need to speak more about myself, so.
Right.
I think my work speaks for itself. So as far as the time goes, like Mr. Bosky said, there's a lot of overlap. Like Mary and I have gone to the same meetings over and over again. I'm in the EOC as a communications. I participate in a lot of disasters. I've been participating in a lot of disasters when I was a dispatcher, you know, helping out and doing that. And then I got up as the systems administrator, and I was in the EOC there, and then 911 director and doing that. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. So the things that he put in there, I agree with. My board has the authority to put the brakes on. Mr. Bishop has the authority to put the brakes on. I have the authority to put the brakes on if it's not working for me. I value my time off, just like everybody else, right? So if it gets to be too much for me, I'm gonna say, hey, hold on a second. We need to sit down and talk about this and make a decision. So, and I wanted the county to be able to have that decision-making process as well, because if it doesn't work out for me, I don't want to see that department like go away. I want it to be restored to what it has been and it continue on. So if I can't do it, so that's all I have. Unless you have questions.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Do we have a motion? Everybody's clear on the motion? Okay, then, all those in favor of the new drafted motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
And Mr. Chairman, one last report on the Personnel Committee before we move on to Properties Committee. Subcommittees cannot make decisions for the full board. So subcommittees do work for the full board. And so 99% of the time, the motions that come before you are action that all the groundwork took place in the subcommittee. There wasn't a no. A lot of times in requests that come for personnel, we will send them back, that the board needs this, or we want you to look at that, and that's not a hard no. That's work in the process to come before the full board. But there are occasions where a motion comes before a subcommittee and the subcommittee chooses not to act on the request. And when that happens, that's incumbent upon the subcommittee to just make that knowledge available to the full body in case the full body wants to take a different one. And so there was one agenda item from community mental health on the personnel committee meeting that was a request to have a contracted psychiatric nurse practitioner to be paid instead of through a contract amount, to be paid through county payroll system, and to add county health insurance, retirement, and other benefits. There was a case as to put forth by the requesting department head as to why it was thought that that was needed. The committee, after hearing all the arguments for, felt that there was a variety of considerations on the negative as to why we could not in good conscience, any individual member, make a motion to support that request. So there was no motion to support it and there was no second. So that motion did not move forward out of personnel committee. If there were any further questions the board can ask, I just wanted to note that.
So no.
The extent of my report.
Okay, we're moving on then to the last committee report. Ask Commissioner Warren to report on properties.
I'm going to make this motion number one to move forward. This is just to, what we're doing is the motion was Motion by Henning, supported by Jarvis in committee to recommend the full board to authorize the county controller, administrator, and the CMH CEO to begin the process to explore the possibility and feasibility of purchasing a building as an additional space for CMH programs at no additional cost to the county for fund. And what this is doing is just moving this motion forward for the exploration. We'll have more details on it later as if we're going to take any action. We do have other things that they're working on exploring. We're waiting for some architect engineering and some numbers of what we're going to do with cleaning mental health and DHS. So this is just one more avenue that we may have to fall back on. We just want to have some safety measures. We have a situation right now. Something happens with Lakewood Grove, then we're going to be in big hurt in the city of the county of Lapeer. And so we need to have all these things in order so we're able to make that action move forward properly.
So you move the motion?
I'm moving the motion forward, yes.
Okay. We have a second. Support? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay. I think we're through all of our draft motions. I'm not aware of any ad hoc committees. I think our county administrator controller does want to make some comments that might be put under fiscal planning reference to broadband.
Sure. Thank you for allowing me to rise again and discuss this important topic. I want to bring everybody's attention to the ongoing broadband discussion. A month ago, we issued an RFP to ask for countywide feasibility study and essentially price indexing. What is it going to take on a per parcel level to determine where our broadband services are, where are they not? To understand this information at the granular level, we have to put a bid. This is going to be an expensive project. And so the bid closed on Monday. I received the bids. Some disqualified themselves based on further discussion, some questioning that they had for me. But we have 3 to review. So what I will be doing, we do set through this body. We also utilize the LDC's broadband committee, and through that broadband committee is where we'll have some further discussions about what to do next, and how to bring this feasibility to fruition. Because we're going to have some surveys. Community needs to get involved. They really do need to know what's going on. People will be in trucks. People will be coming down the roads, and they're not going to notice these people. And if I were somebody in the country who didn't have internet service, and I see a guy messing around with my telephone lines, and it's not ITC, DTE, or consumers, I'm calling, I'm picking up the phone when I call somebody. So we need to make aware to the public that these people will be in our neighborhoods doing some work, okay? With that being said, Governor Whitmer puts out $250 million of state-directed broadband money. $250. Everybody jumps to it. Wow, there's $250. It's going to be grant-based. It's going to be competitive. We need to make everybody very aware of the implications of that particular money. I was on the phone yesterday with the executive director of Connect Michigan, Eric Frederick, going over the finer details of what this money means, okay? There are always catches. There's always a catch when there's that much money on the line. Here are some of the catches. We need to be made aware of this in our county. To qualify for this particular money, you need to have a couple things. One thing is an ISP, internet service provider, and we know a few of them in the area. We have some here in our own county. If they receive federal monies for broadband, they would be ineligible for this $250 million. So if an ISP has already taken federal money and used it for broadband services, it's an automatic disqualifier. That's how I understood. Okay. Second thing is, the money is to be used in areas in qualified census tracts. For those who don't know what a qualified census tract is, it's basically a carve out of population that says you meet certain income requirements, population densities. And you also have to be underserved depending on the rate in which you can upload and download data, okay? So there's a lot of disqualifiers. So we want people who want to jump at this, and your phone start picking up, hey, how come we're not going after 250 million? How come we're not going after 250 million, right? It's because that we need to make sure we don't disqualify ourselves for the bigger pot that is sitting through the BEAD program. The Broadband Equity Access Program is a federal program that's coming down the pipe. There's a 25% match. I mentioned it before. I have to mention it again. We are preparing ourselves, unlike other people who are not preparing, they're sitting on their heels right now. We are preparing ourselves to step up to the table, and when they say you need a 25% match, we go and say, our study is complete, we're past this already. Our study's complete, our money's set aside. I spoke with the MTA group at Global Township, thank you, Mr. Bosky, he left the room, he hosted the meeting. We spoke to the MTA, and I said very plainly, if you have not spent your ARPA dollars and you're wondering what to do with it, do not look for pet projects, these things that take away 10 grand here, 15 grand here, 20 grand here as these pet projects. Let's get serious about broadband. Let's get serious about that investment. So what would we have to do to say, when we come to the table 25% match, it's not the burden of the county, right? It's the township stepping up and saying, hey, we would be interested, villages and cities, we would be interested in making sure that our piece of the pie comes in. It all matters. That 25% piece of that pie, it's going to matter. We're going to need all hands on deck. So with that, I made that message very clear to them. The last thing I want to talk about while we're up here is the ARPA dollars. At some point, we do need to make a declaration of some sort about broadband. It needs to be in a very public way and where our stance is, because the strength of the county with the broadband conversation will be the strength of the conversation for all the township, cities, and villages to follow. If we are shaky, if we are undecided, if we are unclear on our decision, everybody else will be as well. So to practice good leadership, at some point in the near future, I'm recommending that we make a statement and say what we are going to be using the broadband dollars for, how we're going to do it. The feasibility study will tell us those things. But to say clearly, this is what we're doing, that allows others to follow. And it gives them confidence because we will also have skin in the game. That's my brief update. I'd just like to know where we're at. It's an ongoing conversation, but we will, as we progress through this, we will absolutely bring more updates to the table.
Qualified census tract,
Yes.
your city, any others in the county?
Small dots on the map, nothing of substance, but we have one quality census tract, which is in the city. I have a planned conversation with Mr. Kerberson to talk exactly about his qualified census tract and what he would like to do in terms of inside the city. They have coverage, and so what we never want to do is you never want to spend money on build out if it's already built.
Yeah.
That's just duplication of efforts and a waste of money. So, but we do need to make sure that that we are covered and we've checked that box before we assume anything. So yes, a conversation with Dale, Mr. Curtis is happening.
Any further questions from the board?
Well, I appreciate the effort you're doing on this. A lot of people don't realize how much is involved and how intensive it's gonna get, so, but I agree with us getting our stand on it so that people know, the leaders know that we're behind them and we're trying to move forward.
I would ask one thing of the board, if you have any, either through its MAC Region 7 or the MAC, I'm gonna be reaching out myself. I understand that the state of Michigan has created the Michigan High Speed Internet Office. It's a brand new office to handle this very thing that we're talking about. It's under the Department of Leo. And because it's under the Department of Leo, they will be making the hiring decisions of the Office of 8 plus an executive director. This is not an elected, it's more of an appointed, they're gonna go through an interview process. It is critically important that if we have any conversation getting back to Leo, making ourselves available to Leo, if we need to go and drive to Lansing and have a conversation about the importance of rural representation on those appointed positions. If 8 people are hired and 8 people come from Oakland County, if 8 people are hired and 8 people come from the UP, where does that leave Lapeer County? Not in the conversation. So what we need to fight for is representation and make our recommendations. Hey, it's not a candidate, it's not an election, but we need to have some type of conversation for rural representation. We're fighting extremely hard to make noise just in the Southeast Michigan region we're in. We need to make greater noise because that is the decision-making group who will say, when the money comes down the pipeline, they will create the criteria to say who gets the money and who doesn't. They will be the ones at the end of the day to check off the counties, who's gonna receive that grant, who's gonna get the infrastructure, who gets preferred treatment and what time on the project management schedule they are. We have to have voice on that particular, we have to, or we will get gobbled up and, it's not a position we wanna be in.
There's nothing probably that requires them to fill certain seats.
No, but just like anything else, if you can have somebody representing you on such an important board, especially fiduciary matters, they're appropriating money, I would fight to put somebody in the ring so we can be represented.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, audit motions, Commissioner Snyder, would you take us through that?
I will move the road commission's audit motion for checks dated April 7th, 2022, and the county's audit motion for checks dated April 22nd, 2022, with the controller's signature.
I support that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Mr. Chairman, before you read all of the agenda, I just want to point out to you, I have to leave at 15 minutes after the hour. I have an appointment with a prosecutor and at 11:45 LBC at the 9:11. So that's just to barely have a quorum there. We won't need any other action items that require a quorum because you have the authority to adjourn, just adjourn the meeting. But I just wanted to point out in case it's 15 after and I have to leave, I've got 2 appointments I have to attend.
Thank you. Okay, public time. We're back to our second public time. Any members of the public wish to make comments?
First of all, Jeremy and Sheriff, I do believe that we have a constitutional sheriff's department. And I do know that you guys love chips. I love chips, you know that. But I'm worried of being blamed for the results of this pandemic. The last couple of years, we have asked the mask be removed. We fought for that mask to be removed, jabs not to be mandated, and the oaths to the Constitution be honored. We have taken our roles as lesser magistrates to heart. We have used our voices, our money, and our feet. And again, I've showed you this book before. It's about the Constitution. It's not just about standing up for what I want. It's about standing up for what our country is about, our republic. The other thing is I just got an email. Yesterday, we went to our township office and I asked if we could do an appeal to the Board of Appeals, the zoning Board of Appeals, and they were like, no, we don't think you can, but we'll call our lawyer. And we were sure that we could do that. So we have been told that, yes, we can make an appeal to I believe, the zoning Board of Appeals. It's gonna cost us monetarily. It'll cost us our precious time, but it will be worth it to stand up for the neighborhood and the initial desire and investment of the doc and Mrs. Richardson and what they did for the land around it. Not just our township, but in Genesee and Lapeer County. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Morning. I am Tom Coleman from Deerfield Township, and as the presentation this morning, we're aware that there's a mental crisis with the youth, right? We all realize that. Well, kind of what I gather from certain people in here that it's more of that we need more government involvement. We need money. You can't throw money in government involvement at this situation. This situation, this as Carol said, a pandemic, the crisis with the kids was caused from lockdowns, from masks, from the fear of being stuck with a needle, right? So what I don't want to do is I don't want to turn this crisis with the kids as a money grab for government. And that's not, the solution. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys as a board, as a whole, voted down on a resolution to protect the county from mask mandates, vaccine mandates that Warren had proposed. So we vote against things to protect the kids, and then when they have problems, we have the solution. That runs right in line with communism. That's what communists do. They create the problem, and then we have the solution. These kids don't need money thrown at them. They don't need more government involvement. It's government involvement that's caused this crisis. And as we've learned over the last 2 years, the masks don't work. The vaccines don't work, and the vaccines aren't even approved. We've all been lied to as a whole country and told across the nation that these vaccines have been 100% approved. Well, the health director's been in here multiple times and Rick has said, hey, are these vaccines approved? And the Lapeer County Health Director will tell you, no, they don't have full FDA approval. And so these kids have been afraid, and not just kids, the adults. And then the adults, we have mental crisis with the adults, and that trickles down to the kids. We don't need more money, more budget thrown at this problem. We definitely don't need more government involvement. We need elected officials who will stand up for constitutional rights and who will say no to vaccines and no to, or vaccine mandates and no to mask mandates and no to local lockdowns. Because those are the three primary things that have caused the issues in the community and with these kids. So as we're going forward and as we're voting as a county and as we're voting as a state, those are the things that we need to be aware of, because that's the truth. Thank you.
Pierce. Alan Pierce, Hadley Township. Make it very brief, because he covered a lot of what I would have. The only thing that I would add to it, I want to commend the sheriff. I want to highly commend the sheriff, because he said something very key towards the end of all the presentation this morning. The problem is at home with parents who are not doing their job. It's not with lack of money. It's not with lack of people such as that group giving voice to those young people. I would imagine their voice being heard goes quite far with the young people. I have 8 children. My wife and I have 8 children that we've raised. I deal with problems of my children almost daily. And they're not big problems. They're problems like other people don't give me respect or whatever. It's a parental problem that we as parents aren't talking. We're not helping. We're not listening. We're not trying to guide. And we're definitely not trying to teach. When I was being raised, I got school, public school, but I also got directions from my parents. That's where we need to go back to.
Other public comments? Okay, seeing none then, on the board reports. Start with Commissioner Warren.
I'll go over a couple of things. Number one, there was that committee of the whole, I can mention it here, that I did not approve. Number two, on the committee of the whole. I understand it's a protocol, and I wasn't doing for my name or whatever, I was doing for the people, that was something I disagreed with. As they're talking about though, standing up for the community when they're asking about these things, putting stuff into schools, and it's like we don't put rubbers in the restrooms at kids' schools just because there's sex problems out there. And we didn't have them when we were kids. And as he said, it's a family issue. It's a big family issue. I watched these kids. There was 13 of them. I had 14 brothers and sisters. So I was sitting at home. Right? These are my brothers and sisters. And they all had their own personal lives and their own personal issues. You can't get 13 people to think the same way. It just doesn't work. But they can all love each other, communicate with each other, so they can figure out for their lives what is best for them. We need leaders, our parents, to stand up. It just takes one leader. One leader. I grew up poor. I mean, people tell me they're poor. They don't even know what poor is. They don't know what it's like to have 13 kids live in the back of a semi-trailer. You guys can't even relate to what I'm saying. My restroom was in Macomb County. Our bathroom. I tell everybody, we lived in luxury. We had a 2-seater out back. Kids don't even know what I'm talking about. Some of the older people might know what I'm talking about, but there's still some in here that don't know what I'm talking about. Being poor is a good issue. It's communication, parents being involved, I agree. The leaders talking and speaking up, defending this country. They removed the mask finally, as stupid as it was, on the airplanes. you know what? The president still is gonna fight that. Because the CDC says, I think we should still have them. When you're in an airplane, you have the best HEPA filters you could ever have anywhere. But they want you to wear masks in there. They're trying to bring it back. Another one coming along down the road to keep talking about. So by September, we'll probably hear about this spreading another one. They might have to go back to masks. Well, one thing good about Lapeer, they're standing up. But if right now anybody in their right mind goes on an airplane after they come back and tell us we got to wear them again and wears it, shame on them. We all have the freedom to stand up for ourselves. There's a lot of issues we can cover, and people say, Rick, stay with the local issues. Well, I think I am. I'm listening to the community, but I'm listening to these children. You heard them from their heads, from their minds, what's going on around them. And we all got locked up because we listened to our government tell us we need to stay home. They put the fear in us so bad. Not me. I have the good Lord on my side. There was never a doubt in my mind that no matter what happened, if he had to take me for COVID, then that's what he wanted to do. But that was my business between me and my Lord. I don't know who your Lord is, but my Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, and I know where I'm going. I pray that I don't screw up because as humans, we're all sinners. But we also have a job to be a leader and stand up. Speak out against these things because they affect all of us. They affect our community. Putting stuff in a room in a school to say, use this so you don't do that, that doesn't mean you're going to solve the problem. You're just encouraging the problem. That's not helping our children. The community as a whole, us getting together, the parents getting to the school board, the parents getting involved with their kids' lives is the most important thing we could all do. I have people tell me, you can't do that because you're poor. It's only the rich can do that. Only the wealthy can do that. I still have brothers and sisters that feel that way. It's a shame. I try to get them to say, you can do anything your heart desires, but you have to have a leader show you the way. I had an aunt and uncle. They're the ones that kept telling me, Rick, you can do anything you put your mind to. And because I visited my aunt and uncle, got me there. You get to decide. And when people say, well, I grew up poor, I go, well, you're 18 years old. You now have the ability to make your own decisions. So don't tell me about your life. Tell me where you're going tomorrow. Let's talk about the future. Let's be positive. Let's portray that in the communities. And let's not go back putting masks on. So you think I'm rattling, and it doesn't make sense to you, and I don't understand why it doesn't make sense to you. To me, it's common sense stuff. The CDC has lied to us. The government's lied to us. Our politicians today in this community are lying to us. It's all around us. They don't lie. They just don't tell you the truth. That's not good either. Speak out. Speak out. Talk about what's going on. But you got new leaders coming in. The tough part is there's going to be a lot of new, inexperienced people on this board. And the reason we have 18 commissioners running right now is because of decisions we made in the last 12 months. Did you realize that? Last 2 years has been chaotic for everybody. The blessing is I get to go enjoy the rest of my life. I'm gonna figure out what I want to do. Maybe I want to sell seashells on the side of the road. Maybe I want to make something. Or maybe I want to work for somebody. I might even get back in politics, which is a shame maybe if I do. I just might. I got involved in the community because I thought I could get back. And then I learned politics is just as bad as it is at the national level, at the local level. So what's going on? Why aren't we standing up? Why are we defending and saying these things like putting stuff, spend money? He said, we got money being spent like crazy right now. I agree with the Wi-Fi because that's something these kids are going to need, everybody needs. And we need to concentrate on stuff like that. But the stuff that we need to concentrate on the sheriff. Do you understand there's going to be more problems than that right now coming down the road? Because we have a president openly opened our borders, nobody's standing up to let illegals come in. And they're coming in your community. You don't know where they're at. They could be right here next door.
They're in Dearborn.
But they're in Michigan. I'm just telling you, as a leader, I'm telling you what's.
Out of courtesy, if Commissioner Snyder's gonna have to leave in a couple of minutes,
I'll give
but I
back.
asked if he would make some comments and we can go back to you.
I don't want you to come back to me. I think my point is made. I don't need to finish up on all this stuff. I'm just saying, leaders, please, let's stand up.
Commissioner Snyder, anything do you want to?
I'll just be brief because I have to go somewhere. If anybody thought that the sheriff's presentation was aimed at money, you missed the very early disclaimer that the sheriff made, that he was not making any political statement. He was trying to separate a reality, a mental health issue from politics. And so I think we need to be mindful of that. And I think we also need to be mindful of the fact that you did see the theme of the message at the end of the day, and we've said it before here. If you think our kids are doing well through all of this, they're not. And kids, and I'm talking about somebody that's raised 5 sons myself, so I understand. Kids want to be listened to. They want to be seen and they want to be heard. And they want to be felt like they're valued and that their thoughts and opinions are valid and that they can express them. They don't want to be talked to, and they definitely don't want to be yelled at. They will dialogue, and they want to be heard, and they want to be talked with. But they don't want to be talked to, and they don't want to be yelled at. And I understand all of the emotions of what we've gone through the last couple of years, but it's our responsibility as adults. We're supposed to be the more mature group. That we're supposed to be able to control our emotions. There's an old adage that when you start swearing in your arguments or you start raising your voice and yelling in your arguments, that means that you're insecure about the validity of your argument. Because if you are sound in your validity, you should be able to express it without having to yell and without having to curse. And our kids have seen and heard too much of this. We've all experienced, and bullying at a childhood level will probably never go away. And then social media, like the sheriff mentioned, just even exacerbates that. But when the kids also see adults behaving the way we've been behaving for the last couple of years, we're setting a horrible example for our kids. And so I just ask all of us to be mindful in our passions, no matter what they are, to remember that our kids are always watching and they're always listening. Even when we think they aren't, they are. And so we need to be mindful of our behavior and set the example for our kids. That's all I want to say.
I just want to bring back my comments now because I was not attacking what those kids did and what the sheriff was doing.
Oh, no, it wasn't directed at you,
Okay,
Rick. I'm talking about, believe me,
Yeah, that's what I'm.
we have a relationship that we can talk.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking in general terms. If anybody feels I'm singling out an individual, I'm not. Talking about we could talk, turn on the TV the last couple of years and see what school board meetings have evolved to and what local meetings have evolved to and local family get-togethers have evolved to. And I'm just saying we need to kind of bring the temperature down a little bit for the sake of the kids. That's all I'm saying.
And I agree with that 100%. And I was supportive of my goal was, like I talked about, sheriff department. We're gonna have to concentrate on them. These are people that have been on the front line for us. And things are changing, the drugs are changing. People are dying in the streets right now because of stuff coming across the border. That's what I was trying to get to. And it's coming in our backyard. And people don't even realize it's here right now. It's not gonna be tomorrow, and it's not gonna be at the border. They're shipping them away from there. They're not at the border. I'm telling you, they're coming through the border, but they're not at the border. I'm proud of the fact that they're sending some of them to DC, I wish they would send some to Delaware, but they're still coming to here. They're still bringing them in. And we need to concentrate on those levels. Education, as far as getting them on the Wi-Fi, get them out there. But we gotta also talk about, he said, pay attention to what the kids are saying, listen to them, ask questions in a nice, loving way, and love them, show them that you do care, and that they do have those features that go ahead. And yeah, like you said, the complaint that you're hearing all over the news and the media, you're getting false media. There isn't one station I can tell you to go to that you're not getting the truth, because you're not. There's stuff going on, and I've mentioned it before, and I've talked about it before. I still, to this day, am appalled that we are not having one person stand up for the 35 people that sit in DC that were fighting for my rights. And all they were doing was peacefully protesting. They didn't do anything wrong. They had some pictures and cameras, no ammunition, no nothing. And they're being abused, not even getting their proper due day in court. One guy committed suicide which shouldn't have been because of a camera. He committed suicide because of our ability to tell this country that they cannot steal our elections and get away with it. But we all should be standing up. Mask mandates. I mean, we have professional nurses and there's doctors and everybody else that'll tell you the truth, but you want to listen to what the media is telling us. It's not right. It's just not right. So,
Commissioner Jarvis?
Yeah, I just have a few things on the veterans. They've got their bowling fundraiser in Elmont this Sunday. And I ran into Bonnie, mother of the kids that started the Veterans Esteem Team. And they're bringing the quilt to Sanilac County, beginning in June. I have flyers on that. Lapeer County is bringing it also, but it won't be now until the end of August. Because we were having to find someplace to house it. So I have flyers on, if anybody's interested. They're trying to push for awareness for Agent Orange. And there's a motorcycle vehicle run coming from Lapeer and then also coming from Sanilac County, and they're meeting and joining up together. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Couple practical things, remind everybody of the historical courthouse share of inadequate murder presentations coming up the first and second weekend in May. Tickets available, including at our Parks Department. Love Inc. has a Polish dinner this Friday, I think it was at 3 or 4 o'clock to 7, something like that, at the Church of Christ. Love Inc. does a lot of good work in the community. I can tell from past experience, they have a great Polish dinner too. So I encourage you to support that. I guess the only other thing that I was going to say is we certainly need the parents to be the primary support for their kids. And in many families they are, but it also includes other adult relatives and sometimes neighbors and other family members, as was pointed out in one of the conversations. All the adults need to be involved with the kids. But when they do that, we still need to be remembering that there are adults and communities across our country, across our world, who are not doing the things that are responsible for taking care of their kids. And the question then is, what does society do in the case where adults don't do what's necessary to raise healthy children? With that, I'll accept one more motion.
Motion adjourned.
We're adjourned. Mr. Pierce, you got a minute? Before you leave? Yes.